Welcome, everybody. Thank you so much for taking some time out of the middle of your week to chat about science on the ballot. My name is Sam. I'm the Director of Programs for the National Science Policy Network, which oversees this program and sort of excitingly for the first year has completely adopted this program under NSPN's umbrella. The past few election cycles, we've worked with the Science Debate founders to help provide some support for recruiting coalitions and helping lead the efforts, but this will be our first experience sort of having total ownership of it as a program under our umbrella. So we're really excited about the opportunities that we have going into the 2024 elections. Tonight will mostly be informational, giving you some context about the program itself, different ways that the coalitions will be involved, some timeline, and then some upcoming dates and trainings that will be available to you, as well as questions and answers, so we can make sure that we address anything that you're curious about when it comes to participating in the program. And so it's great. I definitely see some folks here that have participated in the past and see some new faces as well. So really excited to be able to chat about what will be similar to folks that are familiar with what was previously Science Debate and is now Science on the Ballot, as well as what changes and new opportunities that we have going into the 2024 elections. So let me share my screen so we've got something that we can look at. And so hopefully you can all see that. If you have any questions tonight, feel free to just throw them in the chat. I do have some time at the end for a Q&A, so we will definitely get to questions and answers then. But if there's something relevant as we're going through things, let me know, and I will take those as they come in. But also just feel free to save them to the end if that works. So I wanted to start just by, this program is one that is open beyond NSPN's membership. And so just for anybody that might have found us through the outreach that we've been doing over the past couple of weeks, I wanted to be able to just share a little bit about the National Science Policy Network. Our vision is a world where science, policy, and innovation power a diverse, equitable society and a resilient, sustainable planet. Our mission is to catalyze the engagement of early career scientists and engineers in policymaking. And these are sort of the three pillars that we use to do that. Building community, including things like networking, providing a lot of training, both in terms of knowledge and skills, and then empowering, trying to create leadership roles and opportunities for folks that have an interest in policy, particularly science, technology, engineering policy, and want to be able to pursue that as a career. And so that's just a little bit broadly about who NSPN is and why we sort of were the right fit when the founders of Science Debate were looking for a new home for the program. Because they knew that we had a membership that was already really invested in the work of what this program is about. And so it sort of seemed like a natural fit for us to be able to take that and lead that on from here. So that's a little bit about NSPN. I'll get into some of the finer details. What I think is really exciting about Science on the Ballot is it really does hit all of our pillars as an organization. There is a really strong community aspect to it. There's training elements, and those are some of the things that'll be different for those that have experienced this program in the past, but a lot more training opportunities for folks that are participating. And then really a lot of leadership and sort of, career type skills training that teach you how to work with other folks in a team, other organizations, do outreach and advocacy work. And so a lot of those things that sort of hit the empowerment as well. So this is one of the reasons why Science on the Ballot is one of my favorite programs to be a part of. And it's one that certainly lives up to NSPN's mission and vision. So Science on the Ballot, formerly Science Debate, is all about asking candidates, elected officials, questions about science policy. That's sort of one side of it, but then also making sure that people, both the public, voters, the media, are aware of what those responses are, what those major questions are, so that they can make more informed decisions when they're at the polls voting for state, local, federal level candidates, and to learn more about how those candidates view a variety of different science and technology issues. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, which means that we are completely nonpartisan. We'll get into more of the details on that throughout the program, but what that means is This isn't meant to be, a sort of gotcha program. It's not meant to shine the spotlight on differences between, political parties. It's meant to really give a platform for science policy as part of the conversation going into an election year. We obviously value having these conversations and making sure that the public is aware of where candidates fall on these issues. And so this is a way to try and make this as integral a part of the conversation as we feel it should be, along with all those other things that candidates are talking about. And so again, it just sort of boils down to working to get the public to understand where candidates stand on critical science and technology issues. So that's kind of a very broad level what the program is about. And I assume that most of you, if you made it here, you've at least kind of gotten a sense that that is at the heart of what Science on the Ballot does. Just a little bit of history for those that haven't been around before. This program started out as its own independent nonprofit in 2007, based basically on a response of the founders kind of getting together and being like, there is an almost complete absence of conversation about science and technology topics in the presidential debates that were coming up for the 2008 election. And so the goal of the organizers of the program at that time was to have one of the actual televised debates be wholly around science policy, which is where the name Science Debate came from. It was about creating a science debate. Obviously, tailoring an entire presidential debate around one topic, it was a pretty heavy lift, but what did happen, Obama and McCain in 2008 both agreed to do an online questionnaire where they would answer science policy related questions that they would agree to then be published and put out there for people to see. And so that was a win. And then over the years, through subsequent elections, the program kind of grew to expand and include not just the presidential candidates, but looking at state level candidates, local level candidates, and really sort of broadening the idea of we should be having these conversations at every level of government, not just the federal level. And so it's great because people are paying attention to presidential elections and you can get a lot of interest from that. But you're also missing out on a whole lot of other candidates if you aren't paying attention to state and local candidates as well. And so that's where sort of these state coalitions and the idea of having groups of state-based organizers developing state-level specific questions grew out of that demand and desire to see the program grow beyond just essentially one race in a landscape where a lot of times more impact might be made when you're looking at state legislatures or Congress, or even certain roles within state government that have a heavy hand in determining science and technology policy. And so, in 2020, NSPN first started helped Science Debate with a program then, and then last year we sort of continued things on as part of a sort of trial and transition into where we are today, which included sort of rebranding things to more about what the program does now, which is about getting science on the ballot and in the minds of voters. This is just kind of showing some of the different ways that this program interacts with our three pillars as an organization. And I'll get into the details of these a little bit later, but you see there's opportunities for all of these different areas for folks that are participating in the program. So it's really exciting, not only because it's a really clear way to have impact in the world of science policy, because there's a lot of advocacy that happens because you're trying to get the public interested in science policy, but also there's a lot of reward that you get just in terms of training and networking and experience by participating in this program. So we're really excited to be able to outline some of those today. So a little bit more of the details of that, when we knew that we were going to transition into sort of taking over the program completely, we wanted to identify sort of the main areas that this program would be able to provide, the public, but also those that are participating in the program. And so one thing that we saw it as a real opportunity for was about training, so that those that are working and volunteering in the state coalitions could learn what it's like to be nonpartisan when talking about science policy related issues. They could learn what it's like to try and build coalitions from the ground up and try to get people motivated and interested in talking about these things and supporting the work itself. they could learn what it's like to cold call candidates or communications directors or campaign managers to try and get campaigns to discuss these issues, as well as working with voters directly and the media to get attention on it. So there were a lot of training opportunities that we saw with the program. Then, of course, the program itself is about engaging all these different groups around science policy topics. And so that sort of piece of being able to bring these different circles together and be able to make sure that not only were we doing this to help ourselves kind of understand where candidates stood, but that the public at large would have a chance to really understand what the issues are and where candidates actually stand on them, which leads right into sort of that third point as well, which is like, really making sure that these topics are a part of the conversation and doing the work and knowing that sometimes it's going to be hard and sometimes it's going to take longer than we want it to, but that just as all those other sort of hot button issues that can come up in elections, we wanted to make sure that these really important science policy related issues are things that people are talking about when they're talking about elections, when they're talking about candidates, when they're making decisions about who to vote for, but to really put these topics in the same ring, in the same category as all the other major issues that you see in election season so that they don't get overlooked and people can make decisions about the future, as well as things that might impact them directly right now, like taxes and those sorts of things. So let me just double check to make sure that I don't have any. So just a broad overview of the timeline where we are. One of the exciting things about in 2024, where we are coming up in the 2024 elections, is that we have a little bit more time. And so we really wanted to have a strong build up and lead up into running this program. And so this is sort of at a glance what the next year and a half or so of time that we have until it's actually time to vote will look like. So now until July, we're still recruiting for coalitions, and honestly, we sort of have an open policy of people can join a coalition at any time. So if somebody figures out about this program, learns about this program, the summer before it's election day, or a couple months before, a couple weeks before, they could jump in and do some work and do some help. But in terms of heavy recruiting and really trying to get these coalitions formed, now until July, and in mid-July is when we'll have sort of an official kickoff to really get those coalitions working on things. From July through November, that's when we really want to be intentional and work on developing specific question sets for each state coalition. So I'll take a step back and the framework that I alluded to earlier. The reason we have things separated by state is that there are different issues for different states. There's different sets of candidates. Sometimes there's even different races for different roles within government that touch on science and technology policy. And so the work of the coalitions will mostly be centered around writing and developing questions that they can send to these candidates and then doing that candidate outreach that are specific for those sort of state level issues. And so that's why we separate things by state and look at these as a coalition based thing rather than us all sort of writing all these questions together. We want to have autonomy for those individual states to be able to create questions that are more relevant for them. But through July and November, that's when coalitions would really be working on developing the questions. From November of this year through summer of 2024, June of 2024, that's when a lot of the heavy campaign outreach would be. This is when coalitions would be working to get their questions in the hands of candidates, in the hands of campaigns, and reminding them, calling them, meeting them at local campaign events to ask, hey, will you please answer these questions? I think it's relevant to voters, and really trying to get those questions answered and those responses submitted to us so that we can work on getting the website updated with, here's the candidate, here's what they said about these specific questions. And then the last leg of that, which covers a little bit of the campaign outreach section too, but as we get things in, we want to keep people invested and interested in that. So we want to be able to share things out with voters directly. We want to try and get the media interested and involved so that they can publish those responses and so that people can actually see what candidates are saying. And so that, in a lot of ways, it can be the biggest lift of this program, because, you know, the media is very finicky about what they want to cover and when they want to cover it. So we will cater to that. And NSPN will do a lot of sort of program level work to try and get interest in saying, hey, here's what our state coalitions across the country are doing, to try and hit some of those more national level outlets. But one of the things that I think you'll see that is a little bit different in our thinking for 2024 is to provide more opportunities for our state coalitions to do direct voter outreach with these questions. And so everything from, you know, working on ways to get interest out on social media and get people talking about it out there in different ways, to different ways of tying this with, you know, voter registration work and get out the vote type work of, you know, first question being, are you registered to vote? If so, are you interested in learning more about what candidates have to say about these different issues? And so, you know, almost trying to think about how can we bypass what the media cycle might be like in terms of talking about stuff, so that voters can still see the results of all the work that the coalitions have put into developing these questions. One thing that is different for folks that were even involved last year is that 2024 is obviously a presidential election year. And so we will, sort of in tandem with coalitions doing their work, be doing work to develop a set of presidential questions, presidential Q&A about science and technology policy issues. Some questions similar to what you will see at the state level. But what is different about that and the coalition work is this will be open. We want to publicize this to the public. We want anybody to be able to submit questions and be able to pose potential things that we would include in this questionnaire. And then we will sort of take that, figure out where the main topics area are to get it down to a manageable list. We'll solicit feedback not only from you all as state coalition leaders who have been working a lot on questions, but we'll also look at partner organizations. You know, AAAS, for example, has worked with Science Debate in the past to provide feedback on revising those questions and making sure that it's really relevant. And so that process will sort of happen in tandem with the work that the coalitions are doing to develop a final set of presidential Q&A that will then, as an organization, work really hard to make sure that all of the presidential candidates respond to it so that we can publish those responses as well. So in terms of, you know, the coalitions themselves and what they will work on, I think I've already gotten a couple of questions from folks about, you know, the time commitment, the different things that will be available to them. And so I'll start by saying that sort of broadly, coalitions can use support at any level that people are willing to participate in. So if that means that your capacity is, you know, providing some email feedback back and forth on different questions. And so, you know, over the course of the program, your time commitment is reading a couple of emails, responding to a couple of emails. That's still great. That's as great as somebody that has, you know, time where they can set aside a couple of hours every week to keep people on track and to work on all different aspects of the program. So, you know, if you're worried about timing, there's going to be something happening at every step along this timeline that's going to require multiple people to support what a state coalition is doing. So, you know, there will be a way for an entry point for you to get involved and do some meaningful work, and sort of wherever you want to be in terms of participating in this program. I think there will be something there for you. But I wanted to outline sort of the three main areas that we see a lot of work happening at the coalition level. So one is supporting sort of the work throughout the process. And that can be everything from helping to draft the questions like I was just talking about. It can be drafting and writing outreach emails to campaigns and candidates or partner organizations. It can be, you know, working on schedules or doing some check-ins with people. It can be some of that kind of work. It can be more on the end of the program side and thinking about, doing some outreach and cold calls, to voters, or writing the scripts for those sort of cold calls. It can, a lot of sort of the background work could be one area that you could help with. Feeding into that is, doing some of the actual outreach. And so it takes a lot of time and energy when you have a long list of candidates that you're trying to get responses from. And so every single person that can chip in and make a couple of phone calls, or who can commit to sending a few emails a week to different folks, or who, might regularly be attending events where there might be candidates out there trying to, meet voters, actually being able to meet potential candidates and putting it on their radar that, hey, we sent these questions, or we're going to send these questions, and we'd love for you to answer them. But the sort of outreach piece and again, chipping in at whatever level you're able to be able to help make that work of getting through a list of candidates and getting people to respond, obviously is a big area that people can support. And then sort of the third one is leadership and organization of the coalition itself. And so, making sure that you've got enough members, of recruiting people that are interested in helping and supporting, checking in on milestones, being a liaison with us at NSPN to make sure that we're collaborating at the level that we need to. But, I think there's also work in running a coalition itself. And so being able to chip in and support there is another area. And then, of course, if you have the time, the capacity, and the interest in all of these different areas, being able to chip in throughout all of those categories throughout the entire process is certainly an option as well. So that last bullet point sort of goes into this next slide. One of the components that makes coalition successful is having sort of a main point of contact that can help lead, motivate the rest of the coalition, check in on some of these bullet points here. I'll say that I've seen really successful coalitions of like 15 to 20 people, which is great. I've also seen really successful coalitions of 1 to 2 dedicated people. So, you don't necessarily need to have a huge team to make this work, but it certainly helps with some of the minutia to be able to have people collaborating and working, and somebody that can help recruit those people and be paying attention to that is something that we wanted to make space for this year in particular. And so some of the responsibilities that we sort of envision for that is helping recruit folks and helping to keep that engagement high with members of the coalition. And, we know how it is. I do this all the time too, but you overcommit or you volunteer, and it's easy to let things fall off your radar if you don't have somebody that is your main point of contact and somebody that's like helping check in and do that. It's not really anybody's fault, but having a dedicated person to check on that is really helpful, as is somebody to help keep track of that timeline and make sure that like there's good communication among a coalition. Because again, this is a program that you might have people that aren't NSPN members that want to help out. You're going to have people across the state rather than one chapter at one university. You might have a lot of folks from one chapter, but then you might have a handful from another. And so again, having folks that can kind of help tie all those people together. And then again, sort of serving as the main point of contact with NSPN, so that instead of having, an email chain with 15 people back and forth and clogging a bunch of inboxes with check-ins and things like that, if there's one person that can kind of be the main point of contact, it really helps make things a little bit more efficient. And that's not to say that these responsibilities all need to be in the hands of one person. You could have somebody each taking a chunk of this, especially if it's a smaller coalition, and that's totally fine. You could have that fluid and changing throughout the process, and somebody that might have more time at the beginning could take on some of these tasks, and then might need to pass it off to somebody at the end when their year gets busy, or whatever the case may be. So it's still pretty fluid and flexible, but we did want to just sort of outline that this is an opportunity to provide some support to those people that do want to kind of step up and help with some of the organizational side of things. And I'll get to some of the training components for that in just a second. This is just a broad overview of some of the things that we're thinking about in terms of support, resources, training for those that are participating in the program. If you're here, you've probably already seen our webpage, which will be the hub of information. So things like the recording of this session will be there, copies of this presentation will be there, other resources that we get along the way and things that we revise will all be there. So, bookmark this page, refer to it often. It will have a lot of things that will help you, throughout the entire process. Some of the things that, we have on there or will put on there are links to websites and resources that will help you find who's running for office, what the races are in your state, contact information for different campaigns so that those outreach lists, those things are things that you can build. We'll have things like copies of our guidelines, past presentations, other resources related to some of these different steps. That will be a hub for all of those different things, some of the things you see outlined there. Another area of support that I wanted to highlight on this page is that we are planning on hiring a dedicated program coordinator for this program. We're in the midst of fundraising for Science on the Ballot right now, which will dictate a few things in terms of the resources that we have. But that program coordinator role is one that we're really excited about because they would not only help develop some tools and help state coalitions with things like campaign research and revising their questions and things like that. It also means that you're going to have a little bit quicker response. Obviously I oversee all of NSPN's programs. Last year, I oversaw science debate directly in addition to my other responsibilities. And so this will create a little bit more balance because you'll have a dedicated person that is always thinking about science on the ballot and that is always going to be there as a resource. And so check-ins and emails and things like that be a lot more efficient and help you out there. And as part of that, some of these things are things we're already setting up. Some of these things are things that, an incoming program coordinator will have a hand in as well. But we wanted to be really intentional about providing some workshops and webinar experiences to build some training elements into the program itself so that you aren't sort of just following along in a handbook like we've sort of done in years past and sort of getting some tips and advice there, or joining a call with me and me sort of coaching you through it as it's happening. But to say kind of at the start of these different things, having a dedicated training to say, hey, this is what coalition building is. This is what it can be. Here's some tools, here's some tricks and some tips to be successful at it. And so now you actually have some skills to go off and do it yourself. And then the same with some of those other bullet points there, talking about being nonpartisan, of doing a dedicated training about what does it mean to be nonpartisan in the way that we talk about these issues, how to do voter outreach and media outreach and those sorts of things, doing that before you're sort of expected to go out and try and do some of that work. So again, that it's embedded in the program itself and not something that you're kind of trying to learn as you go and learn as you do. So with that, here are some upcoming dates that deal directly with these opportunities. In June, we'll have an open invitation for anybody that's interested in doing some of the coalition leads work, or anybody that is interested in sort of doing the coalition building piece and doing the recruitment for those coalitions, so that in the weeks leading up to the kickoff, you have some extra tools to really get people motivated and fill out your coalition teams as much as possible. So we'll do a dedicated meeting, which will be a pretty brief overview of some of the things that we would want coalition leads to do. And then we'll go right into a workshop about coalition building on June 21st. On July 18th, that's when the program sort of officially kicks off. We'll sort of use that both as a celebratory way of saying, hey, here are our coalitions. Here's, our first opportunity to gather at a coalition meeting, which will also be regularly scheduled throughout the program. And then we'll head right into sort of a webinar training about what it means to be nonpartisan, how that can help you, talk about these issues, and just sort of some good things to keep in mind about the program throughout the entire process. And then on August 15th, we'll actually have a really dedicated session about developing your questions. So Coalitions will have already maybe started to brainstorm and started to get some things down on paper and be thinking about what questions they're interested in asking. And so that will be almost more of like a working group meeting where you can bring your questions, we'll workshop them a little bit, offer feedback, throw out some other ideas and suggestions, and then talk about how you can get other buy-in from other organizations so that you sort of have the weight of approval of saying, yeah, we looked at our local agriculture society, or we had this sort of state level committee that is interested and invested in these questions, also provide feedback. And so we'll talk through some of those opportunities as well on August 15th. But that's just sort of the first set of trainings. We're also planning some around, media outreach, voter outreach, those sorts of things that happen more about like the communication side of things, trying to do one, we're looking at partnering with another organization to do something about campaign outreach and being able to talk to candidates. So there'll be lots of other training opportunities embedded into this program as well. All right. I know I've been talking an awful lot, so I want to give everybody a chance to ask some questions. So feel free if you want to throw a hand up or unmute or throw anything in the chat, and we can go through those. And yes, Tom, I'm just seeing your question in the chat. We will have a centralized web page where all of the questions will be housed. I know we sort of tried to do that last year, and some states are obviously a little bit ahead of the process, and so we wanted to kind of be flexible there. And so, for 2024, if you want to host it on a separate website as well, totally fine. If it's linked to your if you're part of a chapter, or you've got some other organization that wants to be able to house those, great. But we will have a copy of all of those responses on our website so that you can navigate and search by state and then pop out all of those responses all on the, it will be on NSPN's website, but the old science debate URL and all of that will link to that one place. Great question. Other questions from folks about any of the things that we've discussed or anything that I might have left out in today's presentation? Yeah, definitely agree with that, Tom. I know we're honestly trying to work on within the logistics of our website of replicating some of the things that Riley has done, because we love that model. We've got some limitations, and so it may be a cycle or two before we get to that point. But I agree. I think we're gonna, NSPN is gonna work with our communications team to really try and get some broad level media attention on this. So, thinking about like national publications, things like that, national news outlets, because I think you're right, the impact of being able to say this is happening in states across the country, this is overall how many people that are involved in things, might get a little bit more attention about the program, which then could feed down into more of those local news outlets as well. So definitely trying to offer as much support as we can there. Yeah, Riley, go ahead.
Yeah, well, first I'll say, yeah, feel free to reach out if as far as like the web development or anything like that, anyone has questions. But I was curious. So it seems like you're targeting the sort of general elections. Is there any effort to push for the primaries, or is that just you think easier to just go for the general elections kind of this go around?
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think our focus for this year is more on the general election, but we also kind of want to use it as a chance to get a sense for what we can do in the primaries. Obviously, the challenges are that primaries have their own timelines, they have their own set of rules. It's obviously a much bigger pool of candidates. So I would definitely be interested in hearing what we could embed in the program for states that want some more support for their primary work, as well as a good way to maybe take that model to other states that might be new. And so I think especially with kind of understanding that we might always have a new group of people coming in, general is just going to tend to be our main focus, but I'm really interested in thinking about what that expansion would look like into the primaries. So happy to like keep having that conversation, but I also know this year in particular, we sort of won't have our program coordinator in place until you know, the program is already underway, basically, because we probably won't be able to hire for that until the, you know, program is actually up and running in June, and we're getting ready for the kickoff. But that's a position that will be working on growing and developing this program, even sort of outside the typical election cycle timeline. And so I think that's a great opportunity for that person to think about doing more support for primaries. We just don't have them in place yet. So awesome. All right, Trisha, yes, there will be times when all the state coalitions get together. There will be a recurring meeting. So I mentioned the kickoff in June or July, July 18th. Will sort of serve as both a training opportunity, but that will be sort of the first of a coalitions meeting. And sort of depending on your all schedule, I'll send out like a poll to try and find the best date and time, but I'll also record those meetings. And that will be a chance to check in about milestones, talk about what's coming up next, reminders of current dates, as well as a chance to talk about like, these are roadblocks that I'm hitting, or here's something that I found was really successful, a way to share out and learn from what other states are doing. So absolutely, we want to make sure that there's a chance for states not only to have their own coalitions that they're working with them, but to be able to collaborate with other states. Something else that we did in 2022 that I think was successful is that we also provided some space and opportunity to connect smaller coalitions. So we had a couple of states that had just 2 or 3 people each. And so we provided some meeting times for them to be able to have kind of a bigger think tank group to be able to workshop ideas around with. And so I think that's another way that we can think about it, is especially if there's other states sort of in your area, or that certainly might be dealing with similar policy related issues, though we could sort of think about having subgroups as well, but certainly all the coalitions will get together regularly throughout the next year and a half.
Cool, thank you.
Awesome. Yeah. Tom, that's a great point. Working in the primaries definitely does give you a kind of a nice ramp getting into general. Yes, Laura. So Laura's question is about the responsibility for getting responses out there to voters or groups, you know, for those groups to do with them what they want, whether that's endorse or whatever. And so yes, but you will have support. So we were talking earlier, NSPN will have a website where we publish everything publicly. And so we'll certainly be promoting that these are published, and come visit our webpage to see all of our states and all of our responses. But the sort of last leg of the program, and I'll go to this slide as well, from basically starting in 2024, leading all the way up to Election Day, we want state coalitions to use what networks and connections that they have within their state to be getting information that these responses are out there and they're published and they're visible into the hands of people that can do something with that information. So on one hand, you have like the media that can help publicize it. You might have other groups that are invested in science and technology issues that you can say, hey, here's what the candidates are saying about science and technology in my state. I think your members would be really interested, and trying to get them, you know, to push people to see the published responses. And then one of the things that we're going to test out this year and do some work with some other organizations that are doing more of the get out the vote style work is thinking about how can coalitions utilize what they've built and what they've done to directly reach out to voters and identify ways to let voters directly know, hey, if you care about these issues, and you should care about these issues, here's where you can read what candidates have said about it. And, please go check it out, and make informed decisions when you go to the polls. So definitely. Yes. Yeah. Thank you, Riley. Actually, I meant to touch on that in the resources page. And let me know, Laura, if that didn't answer your question all the way. I'm happy to go into more detail. But yeah, so we definitely talked about this in 2022, and this will depend heavily on where we get to in terms of fundraising. Ideally, we get to a point where we can provide some stipends to the state level coalitions, or potentially even if NSPN gets to a point where we could have some targeted advertising for the published responses, so that instead of just using all the different free resources that are available, we could buy ads on social media, or the coalitions could buy ads and we could help reimburse them, that say, hey, here's what candidates are saying about X, Y, and Z, and a link to those published responses, or if there's things that need to be printed, and direct mailers, those different sort of things. So yeah, we're hopeful that we can get to a good point where we'd be able to support that financially as well. And so that's a great question, and something that we want to be in a position to do. And so I don't have any specifics yet on like how much that will be or what we'll be able to support, but it's a goal of the program for sure. Any other questions? Well, while you're thinking about potential other questions that you have in the time that's remaining to us, I just sort of laying out again some of the next steps that we can look forward to in the program. We are working on fundraising now, working on developing that program coordinator role, and basically now until the opportunity in June to learn about coalition building as part of the program, we really want to get as many people signed up as possible. That's when we will, sort of do a final push to get our coalitions made. And so really it's about that outreach between now and then. And then once July hits, that's when the coalitions will really begin their work, and we'll have a handbook and timeline and everything like that for the coalitions to actually start thinking about working together to develop those questions and go from there. So that's sort of what you can expect between now and July. And then we'll send out information reminders to everybody that's signed up for that training in June for anybody that wants to participate in that. Let me check the chat. Yeah, so I think the best way, is to make sure that you stay engaged with in your case, California coalition. And even if, your only capacity to support is to be a part of those conversations and send emails to that group. But the coalitions will sort of take the charge at each state for developing those questions. And so, it's sort of in their hands if they want to do a more public open call to, residents of a state to submit questions and emulate what we do at the presidential level, or if they want to develop among themselves their initial drafts of questions. But, however the coalitions sort of decide to think about that, you're invited to be a part of the process as much as you want to be. And so if that is just providing some suggestions like that, I think that's a great way to start. Regardless of sort of how each state coalition goes about developing their drafts of questions, there are a few phases that they go through. So the coalition will develop their draft of questions. They will then share them out with partner organizations. So they'll identify other groups within the state that have a vested interest. These are typically going to be other nonprofits that are related to science policy, or related to tech policy, something like that. And it's a way to sort of get some buy-in from other organizations, so that, especially because NSPN is a national organization, just having NSPN sort of branded on things, it's nice sometimes if you can connect it to other state and local groups. And so you'll be able to submit your questions for a round of feedback and revisions to those groups. And then, you can take and leave what suggestions you get from that process. But then you will work with me or the program coordinator, and we'll do basically just a final check to make sure that there isn't anything that's too partisan that slipped in, or any sort of like red flags for us as a 501c3, to do any final edits before that goes out. So there is sort of a couple of steps as far as developing those questions. But go ahead. If you have other questions, or if that didn't fully answer.
Oh no, I was just going to say thanks. That does answer my question.
Awesome. Yeah, sounds good. Yeah, great question. I think one thing to keep in mind is this is a new program, a newly branded program, and we're trying some things out. This is an opportunity to think about what works when developing questions. There have been suggestions in the past of, maybe we certainly have an archive, and we will share an archive of questions that states have asked previously. But there's been suggestions of, having some of the questions be consistent across states, so that, maybe 2 or 3 questions are the same in every state, especially the ones that, like, there's certain, everybody's going to have a question about climate, right? I mean, I think it would be really strange to see a state coalition not include that question. So is that a question that we maybe need to develop all together so that there's some consistency among what we're asking candidates, versus do we want to allow for states to have really specific questions about climate? How is climate affecting California is going to be very different from how it's affecting Maine. So, I think we're still sort of leaning more on the side of giving coalitions autonomy there. But, I say this just to sort of be open that, we want your feedback, and we want to know what's working, what's not working when it comes to developing those questions. So I love that question. I think that's a great one for us to be thinking about.
Great, thank you so much. Yeah, I think there are certain aspects of it that are consistent, especially if we're thinking about federal legislation, and they'll have to vote up or down on the same type of legislation. And same goes for ratification of treaties, which is another thing that the US Senate has historically failed to do, although they did ratify the Kigali Amendment. And that was a really huge victory for science policy in America. And so that's the type of thing that I would love to see more of, because we recently saw the development of treaties on biodiversity and ocean protection. And so even senators from an inland state will have the opportunity to vote on that. And so that's something we should have consistently across the nation. And then we can also allow specific local questions about the impacts on a specific state.
That's great. No, I love, and this is what I think is so exciting is, by having the coalition format and by having these different perspectives, we're able to really hone in on different topic areas that can be really useful, not only in helping understand where candidates stand on those issues, but like, imagine getting regular everyday voters to be thinking about, what do these things mean? What do these frameworks look like?
Yeah.
And how does it affect you? And so I think those are all really great opportunities to think about that. But we'll definitely get into some training opportunities later to talk about, what makes a question nonpartisan? What are things we can ask versus can't ask? There's a lot, there's some hard lines, and then there's some like very gray areas when it comes to being nonpartisan. But I won't get into the weeds here, but I think this is a great example of thinking of different types of questions and different ways that we can ask potential legislators to share their perspectives.
Thank you. Totally.
Yeah, absolutely. Good question. I know we're coming up on about 5 minutes left, so I just want to give a final call for anybody else with questions. Since I am recording this will go up on the website, so if you want to revisit it, if you want to share it with people that are curious about the program, we'll have a link up shortly. I will also post a copy of these slides and email those out to everybody that has indicated interest so far, so that you can review that on your own time as well. And my ask for you from this point forward is, if you know folks in your network that would be interested in this, they don't have to be scientists to participate in this program. If they just are interested in getting more attention on these sorts of issues, if they are a climate advocate, if they are somebody that works in agriculture, if there's somebody that works in political science or has an interest in communications, those are great folks to have on your team, and feel free to recruit them and get that started already. Yes, we will have, we're working on like cataloging all the previous questions, but we will have the past questions available so that folks can review them. You should still be able to view on sciencedebate.org the most recent question sets. So, you can see the ones that have been like actually published and work on, but we have a couple of cycles worth of drafts and different things like that too. And so we'll have sort of a database that we'll make sure is available as well. Thanks, Tom. Yeah. Great question. Well, great. Well, keep an eye out on your email. We'll send out updates for specifically the training in June. So especially if you really are motivated now or have capacity and want to help grow your state coalitions, that'll be a great training opportunity. Even if you're not interested in this in doing it for this program or don't have the time, but want to learn more about coalition building, please join us for that opportunity as well. We will settle on a time and everything. We have the date locked in, but we'll settle on time and Zoom logistics and everything like that soon. And so we'll get that invite out. But then also feel free to mark your calendars for the other dates that I shared. The dates on the website aren't loading right now, but we do have a rough outline of some of those other milestones and dates. So check out scipaulnetwork.org and /science on the ballot, that link that you see there. And we will make sure that dates and things are updated there regularly, but we'll also send reminders and invites through email to you all as well. If you have any questions between now and that next opportunity, reach out to me at sam@scipaulnetwork.org. I'm happy to chat, happy to jump on another call. If there's other folks that you want to bring into the conversation, would rather talk through it in person, happy to do that. Really love this program and happy to support it in any way that I can. So please reach out if you have other questions or things occur to you outside of this. But for now, I appreciate everybody's time and attention. I hope you all have a great rest of your week, and we'll be in touch really soon.